The Fiat 500 is as much of an Italian icon as the Leaning Tower of Pisa or a Neapolitan pizza. And now there's an all-new one, and it could just be Italy's most important car in decades because this time it's gone fully electric. So the question is this: has Fiat got the ingredients just right, or is it on shaky ground?
But before we find out how the new 500 gets on, make sure you're subscribed to the Auto Express channel for all of the latest news and car reviews. The original 500 signalled Fiat's world-beating status when it came to tiny city cars. First released back in 1957, it was a car for the masses, with roughly 4 million built across its 18-year production run. A tiny air-cooled engine sat in the back, freeing up more space inside the cabin, which could hold a whole family, sort of. Replacements like the 126, the Panda and the Cinquecento showed that Fiat still had its small car chops, but then in 2007 the new 500 made its debut. While the engineering was much more conventional, it kept the cuteness through a bold, retro look. Sales of that model will continue as a hybrid for a couple of years alongside the new model. And it's a perfect time for electrification, as tiny EVs just make so much sense thanks to their smaller, less resource-hungry size and no tailpipe emissions, which is why there's now loads of them. The Honda E, the Mini Electric, the Smart EQ, the Peugeot E208 and the Renault Zoe, just to name a few. So, why get the Fiat?
Now, one thing that the 500 has always delivered on is character, and this one is no different. If it was an emoji, it would be that heart eyes one because it just looks so cute. The one thing I will say though is the way that the bonnet now cuts through these headlights. It does make it look just a little bit sleepy at the front. And look, no Fiat logo anymore, it says 500 instead.
It's just as pretty from every other angle too. Fiat has taken that iconic jelly mould silhouette and integrated some really sharp modern detailing, like the way those semaphore-like side indicators blend into that chrome beltline. Even among some really striking rivals, the 500 looks great. And the sharp-suited look doesn't stop there.
Now, just like the outside, I think Fiat has really nailed the interior design of the new 500. It's just so clean and classy and simple. I particularly love this body-coloured stripe which runs the width of the dash, and then Fiat have put in a couple of little nods to the car's history too. This wireless smartphone charging pad has the Turin city skyline embossed onto it, and then these grab handles here have the original 500 embossed onto their surface. The infotainment screen is really sharp and clear, and there's physical controls for all the air conditioning functions. And unlike the old 500, this steering wheel adjusts for reach, so it's much easier to get comfortable.
This model is the Icon trim, which gets alloy wheels, LED headlights, keyless entry and that smartphone compatibility on the 10.25-inch infotainment system. That body-coloured dash panel can be swapped out for wood, and there's even the option of vegan leather on the seats. Passion trim below that loses a few inches both in the touchscreen and the alloy wheels, while the basic action does without a screen in favour of a smartphone mount. The 500 is available as both a regular hatchback or the convertible version shown here. That's a big deal because this makes the 500 the first convertible since the Tesla Roadster and the only drop-top EV on sale today. The roof itself works more like a massive canvas sunroof, so it rolls back smoothly even at speed. If there's one downside to the 500, it's those back seats. I'm 5'7", and with the front seat set in my position, my knees were pressed up against the seat back. Then there's the bolt upright seat back itself and barely any under thigh support. But how does it feel on the road?
Well, not bad at all. 500's got that usual electric car thing of having a smooth, silent powertrain, which means that it's pretty much better to drive than any combustion-powered Super Mini out there. The 500's got a 116 horsepower electric motor driving the front wheels, and while it's not quite as sharp off the line as the Honda E, or certainly not the Mini Electric, it does feel plenty nippy enough.
The entry-level Action gets a smaller 92 brake horsepower motor, but thanks to a smaller battery it's lighter too, so on paper there's not a massive difference in performance. Both accelerate from 0 to 62 miles an hour in between 9 and 10 seconds.
Now, Fiat has given the 500 quite a soft suspension setup, which means that for the most part it's actually quite smooth and comfy. The problem is that the damping is very soft too, so on really bumpy roads like this one, it tends to bounce around quite a lot without ever really settling. It does go around corners okay though, even if the steering is a little bit woolly, but let's have some perspective here. This is a city car, not a hot hatchback.
The soft top doesn't really harm the way the 500 drives, as the main structure of the roof is similar to the hatch. The thin fabric skin means that there's a lot of wind and road noise at speed though. But the one thing that really matters for an EV is efficiency. So let's whip out the calculator and crunch some numbers.
The The 500 comes in two battery sizes. Base models get a 23.8 kilowatt hour unit, whereas this model here gets 42 kilowatt hours of storage. Now let's compare that to its rivals. The Mini Electric gets 32.6 kilowatt hours of storage, the Honda E 35.5 kilowatt hours, and the Renault Zoe is the biggest of all with 52 kilowatt hours. But saying the Zoe is the best because it's got the biggest battery is like saying it's the best because it's got the biggest fuel tank. It doesn't really tell the whole story. What we need to find out is how efficient each car is with that energy.
We can work that out by dividing the usable energy of each car's battery by the car's range. We're going to use the WLTP data here because while it's not perfectly accurate, it's the fairest way of making a comparison. And in reality, all of these rivals come out very closely matched. From the Renault, which is just the least efficient, to the Mini, which is the best in theory, the Renault, the Honda and the Mini range between 4.7 to 5 miles per kilowatt hour. The Fiat is right in the middle of that bunch, with the big and small battery versions hitting 4.74 miles and 4.83 miles per kilowatt hour respectively. Those figures look even better next to a combustion engine car. The great thing about petrol is that it's far more energy dense than a battery, holding roughly 9 kilowatt hours in every litre. Using the 42 litre tank of our favourite Super Mini, the Renault Clio, and that translates to about 380 kilowatt hours of energy. However, petrol engines are far less efficient than electric motors, with wastage in the form of heat and noise in particular. That means that if you average the official 54.3 mpg of the Clio TCE 100 petrol, and it drives just 1.3 miles for each kilowatt hour. Of course, petrol cars are still for the moment much quicker to refuel, though the 500 does pretty well when it comes to charging. The smaller battery model can charge at up to 50 kilowatts, while the larger model can top up at 83 kilowatts. That means a 0 to 80% charge in the 42 kilowatt hour model takes 35 minutes. As electric cars go, the 500 is well priced too. After the £3,000 government grant is taken off, the basic small battery Action model starts from $19,995. At the time of filming, the Skoda Citigo IV and the Volkswagen e-up aren't available to order, which makes the 500 pretty much the cheapest electric car on sale in the UK today. The larger battery models are strongly priced too. The 42 kilowatt hour car kicks off at $23,495 for the Passion trim, while the Icon costs $24,995. That's only a couple of £100 more than the most basic Mini Electric and £3,000 less than the entry-level Renault Zoe. The Cabrio costs £2,650 more than the equivalent 500 hatchback though, so unless you really want a slightly noisier, breezier drive, then we'd stick to the hatch.
So what's my verdict on the new Fiat 500? Well, it looks fantastic, it's lovely inside, it's not bad to drive, and most importantly of all, it's really competitively priced. If you can look past the useless back seats, then this has become not only one of the best electric cars around, but one of the best small cars you can buy.
If you enjoyed this video, click on the video windows for more of our latest news and reviews.